Alright, welcome to part 2 of the Beginner's Guides to LEGO Mindstorms, working with the Move, Sound, and Display programming blocks. In part 1 of this episode, we worked with the Move block, which we began to look at in episode 3, but hardly at all. So make sure you check out those, well, all the previous videos first, because otherwise you're probably going to be a bit lost. But in this one, we'll be looking at something besides moving the robot. We'll be looking at how to make it make noises, and also how you can get it to display images, icons, text, etc. on the NXT brick. So first up is sound. So we'll go ahead and start a new program called Explorer Sound. Very technical. And yes, I do type faster than this, except I'm using one hand and the camera's in the way. So just a moment to load. There we are. So I'm going to go ahead and put a sound block here on the start panel, and before we actually do anything with it, we're going to get acquainted with its configuration panel. If you don't remember, the configuration panel is basically the specifics of what you want it to do. You don't just want it to make a sound, you want it to make the sound of your choice, for the duration of your choice, at the volume of your choice. You can get it to play a sound file that's already here. You can get it to play a tone from a keyboard. And you can also download sound files in here. I don't know how to do that, and that may be only in NXT 2.0 because I tried to figure it out, and it seemed extremely complicated, and I didn't feel like spending that much time on it. So, especially when I can listen to any sound file I want, just through my speakers. I don't really need a robot to do that, even though it would be cool. But let me make sure that the sound is coming through the speakers. For the first time, that will actually be important. So, first up is understanding the sound block configurations. So, action. I already went over the action. You can choose either sound file or tone. If you choose sound file, this list will come up, and I believe that you can add to it, but I'm not exactly sure about that. Maybe in a later episode we'll check that out. So, for example, attention. Or we can get to say a word.
Lost object.
It says it in an extremely gritty or grainy British voice. And then we have tone, so that you can actually play musical notes for a certain amount of time. I was dreaming it back in case you were wondering, except I made a few stumbles because I'm not used to clicking in order to make my music. So that's that. Then we have control, which is right here. And normally it's configured to play to abort a sound that is currently playing and select stop. But why do we want to do that? So we're going to hit play. Function. So we can specify whether we wanted to repeat a sound by checking this. And of course it skipped right over volume because, well, it's extremely obvious what that does. We have file, and we have note, and then down here we have wait. So file is the file box that I showed you before. It says you can also create your own sound files by recording your voice with a microphone or by using an existing music file. To do so, select Tools, Sound Editor on the toolbar. Now I tried that and I couldn't find it. So I'm assuming there's either another way or it's just not possible in this older version. So if you have a newer version or plan to get one, you can try that out. And I may try to attempt that at some point, but not today. I just want to get the basics down. Then we also have notes. You can configure the sound block's action to play a tone. And it says you now select a note from the keyboard as well as the length of time that the tone will sound. And finally we have wait, which is right here. If we check this box, it says it should be checked if you want the program to wait for the sound to finish playing before continuing with the rest of the program as explained in the next section, which you can read about. So basically what it's saying is if you check that box, well, let's say we have a move block after a sound block. If we check that box, it will play the entire sound before it starts moving. If we don't check that box, it will continue to play the sound as it moves. And I believe it says something here where you can't just put a sound block in, you have to have something after it, such as move block, otherwise it won't play for some reason. I'm sure they've worked out some of these flaws in the newer versions. And I forget where I saw that, but I believe I did see something about that. So that's pretty much the basics. I thought it would tell us a program to make, but it doesn't. So I guess we just move right on to the discoveries. I wonder how it works first. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Seeing the sound block in action. So you're going to place 2 sound blocks and 2 move blocks in it, in the order of sound, move, sound, move. So we've already got one there. Okay, no, we don't want it up there. What good is it going to do up there? Okay, so we have, oh, sorry. So you just put sound, move, sound, move. Don't do anything in the configuration panel yet. Then configure the blocks as shown in the configuration panels. Now, since it's not real obvious, I will go through the whole program, at least for this first sound attempt. So the first sound block, okay, I change it to sound. We're going to have it play a sound file at the predetermined volume, and it's going to say hello, which is right there.
Hello.
Next, we'll go to the first move block. It's going to go forward and not turn at 50% power. Somewhere around in there. For 3 seconds, and it's going to brake, not coast. So we're going to click seconds, and there's 3. For the last sound block, we're going to change it to tone instead of sound file, so of course the keyboard will pop up. This one will be at 100% volume. It's not going to repeat. It's going to play C for 3 seconds, middle C for 3 seconds. Let's plug that in there. And then the final thing that it's going to do, oh, and another thing that's very important is we're going to uncheck the wait for completion box here. That way, while the next move block is going, it will also be playing the C instead of waiting for the C to finish before it starts moving. Then finally, the last move block, it's going to go backwards, not turn, at 50% power. I hate these slider things. You could just type it in there, I suppose. Once again for 3 seconds, and it's also going to break this time. So there's the program. I'll download it and show it to you in just a moment. May have been a bit hard to hear the C over the din of the motors, but it was there. So the program went successfully, and we'll move on. So we have 2 discoveries before we move on to the display block. Which direction did you say, and be the DJ? So the first one, create a program like the Explorer sound program that has the robot announce the direction in which it's moving as it moves. While going forward, it should say forward, and while going backward, it should say backward. How do you configure the wait for completion settings in the sound blocks? Well, this is rather simple. I think you can just hit the delete button to get rid of those. Yes, you can do that. So, we'll start out with sound blocks. And I'm just going to do 2 for the sake of simplicity, and for time's sake, I don't want to make this too long. But I will go ahead and show you how to do this. So the first sound block, it's going to be a sound file, and we're simply going to, we should probably turn the volume to 100% just because the motors make such a racket. So I'll go and do that. We'll find the word forward in here. Click that.
Forward.
And uncheck the wait for completion box. That's the most important part. And then we'll just have the robot move forward for, I don't know, 2 seconds. Well, maybe 3. That's what we've been doing for the most part. And then for the second sound file, same thing, except it's going to say backward. Unless it's opposite day. There's backwards.
Backwards.
And once again, uncheck wait for completion. Finally, the last move block, make sure that you have to go backwards. I don't know, I'll do 100% power. It's fun that way. And once again for 3 seconds. And that's the program. I'll show it to you in just a moment, and we'll quickly tackle the other discovery. The sound is a little hard to hear because I did turn it 100% power, so just listen carefully. It is there. Yeah, so I probably shouldn't have turned the motors to 100% power, so just keep that in mind. But the sounds were there, even if you couldn't hear them. So the last thing we'll do for sound, it's Be the DJ, and it says, by making a program with a series of sound blocks configured to play notes, you could play your own musical compositions. Can you play a well-known tune on the NXT or create your own cool tune? So this is entirely a matter of choice, so I really can't help you here. And for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off. I'll make a quick, simple program, probably of a Lord of the Rings tune or something to that effect. Jurassic Park, Star Wars, I'll think of something, don't worry. And then I'll just show you what I made, and then when you get to that part, you're going to have to think of a tune of your own, because I'm not going to show you how I did mine. So we'll be back in a moment with the song. Alright, so that was the sound block. So hopefully you'll be able to figure out how to make a tune of your own. Don't copy mine. Those of you who didn't know, it was the Fellowship theme from The Lord of the Rings. It certainly was not perfect. It would definitely take some experimentation to get it better than that. And so now it's time to move on to the display block, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Alright, so now we'll be looking at the display block. I already made a program called Display. But before we go ahead and get started, well, I guess I'll go ahead and put a display block here and zoom in on the configuration panel, the all-important configuration panel. But before we actually do anything with it, as we have done with the other blocks so far, the move and sound blocks, I'm going to go ahead and go over it first. Hopefully I can keep... No, that zoom out a bit. There we go. Alright, so this will allow the NXT brick, the screen of the NXT brick, to display pictures, text, lines, all that good stuff. And as with the sound block, at least for the newer version, you can actually display your own images in it. I don't really see how you could do that with this one, especially since it's just black and white, but maybe in some of the newer versions that's a little easier to do. I'm not too up to date on those though. But anyway, for this one, the action, that's this right here, that's just going to determine what kind of drawing or writing, whatever you want on here. You can choose image and pick from these down here. Text, you can type in anything you want, or you can draw something, I think. Okay, actually, I don't know if you can actually draw something, but you can position it, you can make it longer. We'll go ahead and go back to image for now, though. Display. It says when the clear checkbox in the display box is checked, the NXT removes everything from the screen before displaying something new. Uncheck this option when the screen should not be cleared before displaying something. So let's say you want it to build on each other, like maybe you want to draw some eyes and then a nose and then a mouth, but you want the come up in that order, not all at the same time, then you would uncheck this, and of course you will need more than one display block for that. Displaying images. The configuration panel that you see displayed will depend on which option you select in the action box. So I already went over that. What else have we got here? Okay, I'll go over this real quickly. So you can display images, text, and drawings. And as I showed you before, you have to click on those different options. And then you will use X and Y right here to determine whether you want it in the center or lean to one side, up or down. So pretty straightforward and simple. A little trickier than the other ones, but not too bad. So now we'll go ahead and do a program. We're going to have three display blocks and 2 move blocks in the order of display, move, display, display, move. For the first display block, we're going to do an image, and we'll keep this box checked. We're going to do Angry 4. So there's a few angry faces. That's the one that we'll be using. And the X and Y is already set for us. Now I'll go ahead and do the move block, which we're pretty used to by now. We'll just have it go forward at 75, and all we have to do to change it is to make it 2 rotations instead of 1. For the second display block, we're going to do text instead of image. We're going to keep the clear box checked, and we're going to type in hello. But now we are going to have to change X and Y. For this one, we're going to change it to X35, Y32. Y is already set for us, we just have to change X. We hit the enter button. Yep, that's it. And then for the last display block, we're going to do a drawing. So we're checking all these except reset. We're not going to worry about that yet. Now this time we're going to uncheck the clear box so that it will do the last move block for us as this image is on here. We're going to change it to a circle instead of a point. And we're going to change X to 51 and Y to 31. Now we also want the circle to be bigger, and in order to do that, all I have to do is change the radius. That means it's just going to be bigger. And we're going to change it from 4 all the way to 30. And there we have it. Now the last thing we have to do is the move block. The last move block, we're going to have it make a right turn. Not that far. There we go. At 75% power for 2 rotations once again. And that is the program, so I'll download it and show it to you in just a moment. First I'll just show you the screen. And yes, the text and the drawing should both be there at the same time. Now I'll just show you the movement by itself. The turn was a little hard to pick up, but it was there. It's just that it wasn't a very abrupt turn, so it wasn't that easy to see, but yes, it was there. And once again, the text and the circle were supposed to be there at the same time. That's because we unchecked the clear button on the second one. So now, we're done with the chapter, and it says we completed the basics of LEGO Mindstorm's NXT programming, so that's something to be proud of. But we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We still have 5 discoveries and 1 building discovery. So I'm not going to do all of that because this has already been a pretty long episode, but I'm going to do, I'll probably pick 2 of them. I highly recommend that you work through all of them, but just for time's sake we're not going to do that. So we have one that works with sound and display. We have one that incorporates move, sound, and display. One is just move. Another is move and display. And the last one is move and sound. So I think what we'll do is we'll do the one that incorporates all 3. And I think we got move down pretty well, so I'm not going to bother on the one that just does the moves, and maybe Robo Dancer. That's kind of just for fun. So actually, I think we'll do 7 and 8, and skip 9, 10, 11, and then the Building Discovery. So number 7 is the one that is display and sound. It displays the words that it's saying. So I'm just going to type in some random letters. So, I think because this has already been pretty long and I have no idea what just happened, I'm going to make the program. I'll show you how I did it very quickly when I'm done with it, and then I'll show you what it does, just for time's sake, and we'll go from there. So this one's pretty simple. Make sure that you have the display block before the sound block. Also make sure that all the clear buttons are checked, otherwise I think you'll have the problem of hello sir and thank you, all that text piling up on top of each other, so that probably wouldn't be good. And you'll have to experiment with the X and Y coordinates for some of the bigger chunks of lettering. It won't always be 35, 32. But other than that, it's a pretty simple program, so I think we'll go ahead and move on to Navigator. So to create a program with move blocks to make the robot drive in the pattern shown in figure 417. While moving, the robot should display arrows on the NXT screen that show the direction of its movement. When finished, it should display a stop sign. In addition to displaying the directions, use sound blocks to enable the robot to speak the direction it's moving in. How do you configure the wait for completion box in the sound blocks? So this will probably take me a little while to figure out, and the episode's already been pretty long, so once again I'm going to make the program, show it to you, and then quickly go over some of the finer points of how to do it. So I'll be back in just a moment. First I'll just let you see the images and hear the sound, and then I'll show you the movement. So once again, the movements weren't quite accurate, but for my first attempt, I think it was pretty good. Also, it displays the forward arrow, but then it actually looks like it's going a different way, if you know what I mean. Because the arrow is pointing this way, but it's actually going this way. But I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to be. A little confusing, but I think if that's what it is, that's what it's supposed to be. And let me show you how I did it. You'll want to do each one in the order of display, sound, move. For display, you'll want to make sure that all of the images have clear on them. And that for sound, they all do not have wait for completion checked on them. Then from the movements, for forward I did 2 seconds at 50% power, so that hopefully you can still hear the noises over the racket that those motors make. And for the turn, you have to do, for the turns you have to do 2, well, I only did 2 move blocks for the right one. 2 move blocks in a row, because it doesn't say right and then tell you to do forward like it does here for the left turn and then forward. So for that one I did 2 move blocks in a row. So I just did the turn at 75% power for 2.5 seconds, and then I just had to go forward for 1 second, and then it did the left turn and then another forward. So hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. If not, feel free to ask some questions in the comment section. Hopefully I won't have forgotten everything I learned by then. I don't think I will, though. This is pretty interesting stuff. And make sure that the left turns look like that. I mean, all the turns look like that. Not all the way to the left or right. And the turns I do at 75% power for 2.5 seconds. For the times that's just going forward, I do it 50% power for, I think I did 2 seconds. Yes. So that is a program for Discovery number 8, Navigator. I think it's probably the best discovery in here to do, especially at the end, because it combines everything you've learned about the move block, the sound block, and the display block. Some of these other ones at the end are just more complicated movements, or just sound and movement. And then that is to test your building skills. But none of these other ones combine display, sound, and move like this one does. So that's why I feel like that's probably the most important one to do. And then this one before that, it's good to do because that just combines sound with display. And here we have to add move onto that. But like I said, I myself find these just to be optional. But if you're having some troubles, or you just want to do it for fun, I'd highly recommend that you do them anyway. And so in Chapter 5, or in this case Episode 5, at least Part 1, we're going to be looking at weighting, repeating, and other programming techniques. Of course, we'll have lots more discoveries. We got some fun ones that makes it look like the robot's going to blow up in a few seconds, so you can tease your friends like that. And that one, hopefully we can just do a 1-part. This one I have to split into 2 parts. But that's good, because we learned quite a bit in these 2 episodes. So thanks for tuning in. Happy robot building. We will see you next time. And random bottle of glue.